Once upon a time, in a far-off realm, there was a young hero named Elias who lived in a world much like our own, except with one strange twist. Every morning, Elias would wake up as a slightly different version of himself. Some days, he was brave and motivated, ready to tackle the toughest of quests. Other days, he felt sluggish and indifferent, struggling to find the energy to even get out of bed. This constant shift in his personality made it difficult for him to make progress in his journey. Elias had big dreams of becoming the greatest adventurer in all the land, but the inconsistency in his daily attitude and abilities often left him frustrated. One day, Elias stumbled upon an old sage named Callum, known for his wisdom on the human condition. Elias approached him, seeking advice on how to finally break free from the cycles of inconsistency that plagued him. "Great sage," Elias began, "I want to become the best adventurer this world has ever known, but I'm stuck. Some days, I feel like I'm on top of the world, and other days, I can't even begin to summon the strength to continue. What can I do to stay consistent, to be the hero I know I'm meant to be?" Callum chuckled softly and gestured for Elias to sit. "Ah, young one," the sage said, "you've fallen into the same trap as so many others before you. You believe that the problem lies with your motivation, your discipline, or your willpower. But none of these are the real issue. The truth is, you don't yet know who you are." Elias frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" "Of course, I know who I am. I'm Elias, future hero of the realm." The sage smiled knowingly. "Are you? Or are you simply the version of Elias that happens to have woken up today? You see, each day you awaken as a new person. Your desires, your energy, and your will fluctuate because the you that wakes up today is not the same you that woke up yesterday, nor the one that will awaken tomorrow. Until you understand this, consistency will always elude you." Elias was baffled. "How can that be? I'm always the same person, right?" "Not quite," Calum replied. "You think of yourself as a single, unchanging being, but in reality, you are like a player in a grand game who keeps spawning as a different character each day. Some days, you wake up with high stats in discipline and willpower, and you accomplish much. Other days, you spawn with lower stats in those areas, but nothing gets done. The problem isn't your lack of motivation or discipline. The problem is that you don't understand the nature of the game you're playing." The sage's words reminded Elias of the games he used to play when he was younger. In those games, he had to navigate different stages, each requiring a different strategy. There was the early game, where the focus was on leveling up skills and gathering resources. Then came the mid-game, where the hero would hit their power spike, making crucial moves to prepare for the final challenge. The endgame was all about avoiding costly mistakes and making sure everything came together for victory. "Life is much like those games you once played, Elias," Callum continued, as if reading the young man's thoughts. "But many people play life as if they're randomly assigning points to different stats, with no real strategy. They don't understand that the choices they make today will impact their future selves. The key to success, both in games and in life, is to play not just for the moment but for the future as well." Elias thought back to all the times he had made poor decisions, staying up too late, neglecting his training, or giving in to distractions, only to regret it the next day. He would always tell himself that tomorrow's Elias would fix things, but when tomorrow came, he found himself frustrated with the consequences of his actions. "Exactly," Calem said, noticing Elias's thoughtful expression. "You live for today and leave tomorrow's problems to the next version of yourself. But when tomorrow arrives, you get angry at yesterday's version of you for failing to do what was necessary. It's a cycle, and it's one that can only be broken by understanding your role in the grand scheme of things." "How do I break the cycle, then?" Elias asked. "First, you must recognize that you are but a steward of your own life," Calem explained. "You are the custodian of the person you were yesterday and the caretaker of the person you will be tomorrow. Instead of thinking only about today, you must play the game of life with the understanding that each version of you is setting up the next one for success or failure. When you live like this, you'll start to make choices that benefit not just the present you, but also the future you." Elias nodded slowly, beginning to grasp the idea. "So it's like I'm handing off my life from one version of myself to the next, and it's my job to make sure tomorrow's me has a better chance of success." "Precisely," Calum said, his eyes twinkling. "When you make decisions that honor both your present and future selves, you build the consistency you seek. Instead of trying to rely on fluctuating motivation or discipline, you focus on making steady progress, knowing that your actions today will directly impact tomorrow's journey." Elias felt a spark of understanding. "It's like in the games I played. Even though I only control my character for a short time, every decision I made affected the outcome. If I didn't plan for the mid-game and end-game while I was still in the early game, I would lose. The sage nodded. Exactly. Life is much the same. You may not always feel like you're winning in the moment, but when you start living for more than just today, you set yourself up for long-term success. Consistency is not about being the same every day. It's about making choices that honor both the present and the future. Elias stood up, feeling a sense of clarity he hadn't felt in years. Thank you, Callum. I think I finally understand. I'm not just playing for today's victory, but for the hero I will become tomorrow. And with that, Elias embarked on his journey with renewed purpose, knowing that every step he took, every choice he made, was building towards something greater than himself. By thinking beyond the present moment and preparing for the future, he found the consistency he had been searching for all along. And so, the lesson is simple. Life, much like any game, requires us to think ahead. When we treat each day as an opportunity to set up the next one for success, we build the consistency needed for long-term victory. The hero of your story is you, every version of you. Play the game.